Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the 19.5 open workout. And I'm excited that this is the end of the open and we can all get back to our normal training. But I'm also not surprised that we saw thrusters and chest bar pull-ups. Now, again, I think that, we've seen thrusters on every single workout. We've seen chest bar pull-ups most of the workouts that have come up. So you guys shouldn't be too surprised either. We've been doing a lot of chest bar work. We actually did a 6-week focus where we've been doing a lot of strict pull-up work and pull-up work. We've increased the amount of thrusters going into this, kind of with the anticipation of it being somewhere around week 5. So what we're going to do is I'm going to break down some of the basics. This is a pretty straightforward workout movement-wise, so you guys shouldn't be too surprised. But I am going to talk about some technique things that might help you out on this, and then I'm also going to show that spreadsheet that I gave you guys a little sneak preview thereof, and we'll go over that. And so if you guys are watching this live, you can post post your comments and questions. I'll try to get to them, and then if you're watching this in the recording, again, you can try to contact me. I'm also going to attach an article for all this stuff where you can download that pacing chart to help you try to get your best score, right, from to help out with pacing. So first thing, overall, this is a marathon, not a sprint. Now it has a 20-minute cap, so it's going to be a long workout, and there's going to be a lot of people who hit that time cap. But it doesn't matter if you're doing this in 8 minutes or 20 minutes. Pacing is still going to be key. Anytime you have large volumes of the same movement, like sets of 33, especially with things that are challenging like thrusters and pull-ups, pacing becomes really important. And it's so easy to come out hot out of the gates. You're fresh, you're feeling good. So then you try to do more than you should, and then then the wheels fall off, and then you start resting. And when we're in that state, we don't realize how much we're resting until you go back and watch the video. You can see yourself how much you've slowed down and how much you are resting. And so if we can pace the beginning of this workout better, then you're going to get a better overall score, especially when it's these longer workouts. Now, one thing I'll point out is that the games athletes that I saw down in Miami, including Matt Frazier and Tia, they both dropped the bar on the first round or two, right? If these guys are dropping the bar on the first rounds, maybe you shouldn't say I'm gonna go 33 all out. I think dropping the bar multiple times in that first round, even if you might start with one biggish set, but I really do recommend you have a steady pace. And so so really pacing for this workout's going to be key. And let's go ahead and talk about that pacing spreadsheet a little bit. So you can check this beautiful spreadsheet that I created here. Now, it might be hard to see on the video. So again, when I have the article posted, there'll be a JPEG and a PDF version, so it's easy to print. And one thing what I did with this is I started, I think, at the it's even hard for me to see. Started at the 7-minute mark, and then I went all the way up to, on the first row. If your target's 19 minutes, right? And so what this shows you, this is assuming that you're pacing the thrusters and the pull-ups about the same. Excuse me. The way the spreadsheet works is, I have to kind of pick a ratio. And in this case, I do think that you kind of want to try to get your thrusters done, and then you can slow down on the pull-ups so that you're more rested for the next set of thrusters. So it should be about a 1-to-1 ratio. That's not going to be perfect. It depends on your ability with thrusters, and it depends on your ability with pull-ups. But this is kind of assuming that you're spending about the same amount of time on each one of those movements. But even if there is big differences in your ratios, you can look at the finish of the pull-ups, and that's the finish of each round, right? So you want to finish the thrusters and pull-ups, the 33 and 33 right here where it says it. And then basically as you go down the column, it shows you what time you need to hit if you're going to hit that target time you have. And so most people are going to be using this top chart. For people who are going to be hitting that 20-minute cap, one thing I want to say with that 20-minute cap is that you can basically take 3 minutes to do the first 33 thrusters. You're doing the thruster pace it says for three thrusters. So you have 17 seconds to do 3 thrusters, and then 17 seconds to do 3 chest to bar pull-ups. If you can maintain that pace, you're going to be able to finish in 20 minutes. So that should seem pretty doable. 3 thrusters and even 15 seconds, and 1 every 5 seconds. If you're doing sets of 3, take 15 seconds and then rest the rest of the time. You should be able to maintain that pace for a long time. But again, depending on how heavy that bar is for you or how hard chest to bars, that could affect your score. So that's what these top columns are. Is the pace for three reps. And then as you go down the column, it shows you the times you need to finish to hit that. Now I went ahead and included below this, you can see that I went ahead and included all of the times beyond 20 minutes, and I just left the timestamps in there just to kind of give you an idea that, again, if you're not going to finish, that you still want to shoot for some of those times. Now it's true that if it's an AMRAP, you might think about going a little bit faster because you're not going to have to go more than 20 minutes. If this was a purely for time workout, the pacing might be more match this chart. So if you know that you're going to hit the 20-minute cap, maybe go a column or two over to the easier side or the faster side, so that, again, your initial pacing is still on point, right? And then you just try to maintain that for the 20 minutes, and then you should hit the 20-minute mark. So this chart works for people who are games level, and it should work for a lot of regular folks as well. So like I said, your goal will be to take this, print it out, and then highlight the column that you plan on staying in, or you could even take these numbers and write them in onto your score sheet. Maybe write 2 different ones, if you know, and then you have your judge, or you have a separate coach or somebody help pace you. If you can have somebody help pace you in this workout, it's going to be clutch, because like I said, when you're in the moment, it's a lot harder to watch the clock and time yourself and try to look at the pacing chart and know where you need to be. But if you have a third person, a coach helping you with that's not necessarily just trying to watch you judge and count reps, that's going to really help you on this workout. So again, pacing is the biggest thing for this workout. Now let's talk about movements. Let me transition back over to the big screen. So thrusters, right? You probably want to do somewhat even sets. Now when you're breaking these up, I think some people might go like a bigger set and a medium set and a smaller set and a smaller set. That's one way to do it, but keeping them relatively similar. Like I said, if you're on the set of 27, for example, and you come out the gate with 15, that's not going to be a good strategy, right? You're better off breaking that up into smaller sets. And so these numbers are actually they're actually 6 additional reps each time, but it's like three sets of 3, 3 sets of 5, 3 sets of 7, and it goes up like that. So 3 sets of 9, right? 3 sets of 11, yeah. So if you could do 11s and then 9s and then down like that, that's going to be a good pace. But trying to keep the sets pretty even is going to help spread it out, so you don't end up overdoing one particular movement and really blowing yourself up. And that's the big thing about the pacing, is it's really easy to get to overdo it, so that you end up getting you can't recover, right? So if you pass that line where you can't recover, your oxygen, your muscles aren't recovering, it takes you a lot longer than if you stay at that steady pace. Each time you go back to the thrusters, you should come off that bar and just get a small set in. This is a mentality thing where a lot of people, if they're planning on doing a pretty big set on their first round, what they'll do is they stop, they get chalk, they take their breaths, and it takes a long time. Just pick that bar up and get 3 reps in, right? you're going to break it up anyway. Just start with a small set that you can do, and if you're feeling good, maybe do an extra rep or 2. But I think people don't realize how much they stop, and that the transition from pull-ups to thrusters and from thrusters to pull-ups is a time where we want to minimize that transition time, and then use that time to then rest in the breaking up of all the other movements. Now this is the secret thruster technique that most people don't realize, and you can see it a lot with really advanced athletes. Is they're actually coming down with the bar, and I think this only really applies to people that can handle the weight very effectively, and that they're actually going with gravity. So they're almost pulling the bar down. So they're falling with the bar. So they're not really working. They're not doing a lot of eccentric motion on the way down, and that saves energy. Now, what that does require is you have to be strong enough to be able to receive that bar crashing down on you at the bottom, and then you can bounce out of the hole and come up. So if you're somebody who does a thruster and you tend to catch it with a really forward torso because of hip mobility or whatever, that can really blow your back up. So this is for people who can keep that upright torso, and maybe if they wear Oli shoes or whatever, but you can keep that upright torso. So it doesn't tax your spine too much, but you're going to be able to drop down into it, and that's actually going to be less work output done than if you were to control it. Now, again, most people that aren't at that level yet, or they're going to have to bring it to their shoulders first, and then do a very deliberate squat, rocket it up, and then bring it back down to the shoulder. That's going to be your best bet. And again, it's not so much about the speed every single time. The reason why the down fast is so good because we're doing 105 of these things, and even if it's only 5% or 10% more efficient, it's going to add up over the course of the of all those thrusters. Now, one thing I like to point out too is squat clean is fine, so you don't even have to stand up all the way. So you just have to make sure that you're hitting the bottom of the squat. This is going to be important because you're going to be dropping the bar a lot. So the more efficient you can be at kind of scooping under the bar and doing kind of a really bad clean, but basically just squatting and curling even, I wouldn't recommend that, but just doing a very shortened clean is going to help you with the small sets while still preserving energy, because that's really the balancing act, right? If you break it up too much, you're expending extra energy to get the bar in the front rack, but if you try to do big sets, then you're going to need longer rests. And so every person's going to be a little bit different, but if you're really efficient at getting under the bar, that is going to help you again conserve energy for this long workout. Chest to bars. So again, leaving the thrusters, go right into your first set of chest to bars. Don't waste time and get chalk. I saw someone do that on the video today. You know, you're better off just going and getting a set in. What you should do is if you do need chalk, you should actually, when you're resting before your last set of thrusters, let's say you've got 5 thrusters left on a round, go get chalk then while you're resting from the thrusters anyway. Do your last set of thrusters and then go right to the pull-ups. Again, we're minimizing that time in between those two movements. And then again, just do a small, fast set. And then, you know, it might be 3 reps, it might be, 5 reps, and then rest, and then get more chalk or whatever. So trying to minimize that transition time between the movements will help. One thing I like to point out with people with chest to bars is that it's a lot of hips. You guys need to be using more of your hips. I think a lot of people don't really think about bringing their hips up to the bar, and that's the chest to bar pull-up, even the butterflies, it's really more about the lower half of your body. That's going to help you get up high, and it's less about the arms, right? You're gonna save your arms for the negative, for the eccentric portion, and not do so much pulling. And the other thing I like that really helps with people visualize, so for you coaches out there, this is something that can help people, is have them think about driving their elbows back. Like someone's standing too close to them at the ATM and they're going to elbow them in the stomach. Think about driving those elbows back, and that's really going to help open up the chest and reach the chest for the bar. A lot of people don't realize that they're pulling with their arms and they're not pulling their scapula back. So giving them some visual cue, something in 3-dimensional space that they can implement, is really going to help them get that chest to bar. When it comes to equipment, if you're used to gloves and hand wraps, I would recommend using them. If you're not comfortable with them, you might start with them. So gloves and hand wraps are great because even if you just use them for the first set or the first round, you can pull them off easy. If you don't have them on, it takes a lot longer to put them on. So even if you have the straps and then you just have the wrist piece on, you can just leave them there and put them on real quick if you want. But still, it's always easier to pull a glove off or pull a wrist wrap off than it is to put it on. So even if you just use it for the first round or maybe round and a half, that's going to save your hands for the later rounds, right? So if you've never used them before, I would still err with caution. You don't want to introduce any kind of new thing that you've never done before when everything's on the line. And then I mentioned Ole shoes. I think most people, they think about the pull-ups, they think the Ole shoes are going to be too heavy, but remember, it's that kipping motion, and it's a little bit heavier, yes, but that extra weight can actually help you get up. That's kind of a stretch, but having a little bit, but it's not going to make the pull-ups that much harder. So if you're somebody who struggles with that upright torso in the bottom of the squat especially, then you're probably going to want to use Olympic lifting shoes. But that's it, guys. You guys have made it through another CrossFit Open, or maybe your first, and this is my 10th or 8th, I don't know how many, since 2011, since the beginning. So it's always fun to kind of be here, and it's always good to remember that this is why we do this, and to think about our training in general, and to try to make sure that we put a good effort out so that we're not disappointed and think that we didn't do good enough. And on that note, I will mention repeats. I don't think people should do a lot of repeats on this one. Again, if you're trying to make the age qualifier or something like that, then you might think about doing a repeat. But or if you really care about your score, a repeat is kind of a thing you might try. But ultimately, repeats are just gonna this is gonna make you terribly sore. It's gonna shred your hands. It's going to disrupt your training for the next week or two. And remember, you already are kind of at risk because of the previous 4 weeks, right? So you've been doing these open workouts, maybe you repeated some of them, and so your body should be pretty beat up. Most people can agree that their body's beat up, and so doing another repeat is probably not a good idea. Now, I do have a question here from Matt. Breathing at the top, at the bottom of the thrusters, breathing through every rep entire. Yeah, so I like to have people try to exhale on the way up, but really when you're just hypoxic, you got to breathe when you can. But if you can control it, I like to do breathing at the top, right? But breathing at the bottom, I want people to bounce out of the hole, and so especially like I said, when that weight is coming down and you're in a slightly compromised position, if you were to exhale right then, it's easier, it's harder to maintain that abdominal pressure. So it's better to kind of do a slight breath hold at the bottom as you bounce out of the hole and come back up. So that's how I would breathe on the thrusters, and then take a good deep breath when you're going overhead or when you're locked out. And for the chest to bars, yeah, you should be breathing as you do the reps. And then when you do drop these bars, this is another important recovery technique, is to try to breathe through your nose. And so there's a parasympathetic system that kicks in when we're breathing through our nose, especially when we're exhaling through our nose slowly. It can actually reduce heart rates, and so that can also aid in recovery. So trying to again, as you're breaking these things up, trying to take deep breaths through your nose before your next set is also going to help you recover. So that was a great question. But I think that's it, guys. Like I said, you guys have finished the CrossFit Open. Go out there and kill it. Again, if you have a great video or something like that, tag me. I love seeing it when you guys crush this stuff. Or if you use that spreadsheet, give a shout out to Thrive History Official on Instagram. And just from a mentality standpoint, try to stick to your plan, right? Stick to your plan, and don't get too caught up if something goes wrong, if you miss a rep, things like that. There's a lot of reps in this workout, so a couple of no reps isn't going to totally disrupt you. So just keep your mind in the game and stick to your plan. All right, guys, that's it, and I'll see you in the next video, maybe even next year, but hopefully you guys tune in and check out some of my other videos I've been putting out lately. Thrive on.